Okay, so we're gonna be going live. You never know with this thing when you're recording, so it's my job to just start talking and wait for it to catch up. So I'm Dennis Procopio. I'm the owner of Man Up Life Coaching. If you've spent any time on my website, which is manuplifecoaching.com, or any time on my channel, you know I'm this guy. And I'm the guy who created Man Up Life Coaching. I'm here today with my buddy Ian Western. Hi, Ian.
What's up, Dennis?
Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip the hourglass and also the half hourglass. And this is either going to take 30 minutes or it's going to take an hour. I have no idea where this is going to go. But the idea is to just have a casual, open dialogue that speaks to anxiety, depression, men coaching men, and every aspect of how male validation contributes to getting out of the funk, and how therapy, which arguably a behavioral science, still sort of misses an emotional button that needs to be hit for us to man up rather than stay down there in the muck. So right off the top, dude, why you of all people? Why am I here with you? What are your credentials?
First and foremost, I'm your client. I came to you in a time in my life where I was like super frustrated with the lack of results I was getting in therapy. I'm 29 years old, going on 30, and dealt with recurring symptoms of depression for pretty much my whole life. Would have short highs where I'd get some wins, but long prolonged lows, and I was just really sick of that pattern, and I knew that I needed kind of more hands-on accountability. I wanted someone who respected masculine energy and who understood just kind of the unique challenges of what an ambitious man who is dealing with depression, self-hatred, anxiety is going through. And that came through in our very first calls with your failure to success script. That I still remember that. I don't know if you want to touch on that. It's huge. And um, interestingly enough, prior to our arrangement, my path through navigating through depression through multiple therapists, multiple medications, eventually led me to some other men's groups where I discovered more alternative and holistic forms of healing, like breath work, guided meditation, trauma release, and just male focused group camaraderie and accountability, none of which had been given to me, provided to me, or I had been directed to in therapy. And in those activities, I really noticed that's where I had my biggest breakthroughs. That's those activities. On the other side of them, I came out feeling more confident, more ready to take action, more lit up, and more prepared to handle life's challenges and my own challenges in my mind. So that inspired me to try and set up something specific for guys going through depression, something that's more holistic, more hands-on, and more accountability based than therapy, that integrates everything from modern masculinity to these new age healing methodologies, trauma release, etc. And Dennis has been guiding me in launching that. So really grateful to be here, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. Now, I'm still growing my YouTube channel, so I'd love to say I'm this dope influencer with a gajillion people that are gonna see your stuff, but my thought was, I've been doing that. I've been an educator off and on for 30 years. Um, my There's an argument that we're always teaching. Um, my childhood, my past involved, if I mean, some of my story. I tell my story in a lot of these videos, so I don't want to snatch the mic and make it
Take
about,
it away.
Dennis had a bad childhood. But there was some bad stuff back there. A little bit of abuse, a little bit of molestation, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of drugs. There were some bad things. Now, I mean, I stuck the landing. I have a successful coaching business, and I'm scaling, which means that I leveraged my experiences. I recognize them as a tool set. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you do with this skill set? Well, you teach other people. Watch out for that last step. It's a doozy, and people really appreciate you for helping them sort of have a picnic on the battlefield and navigate through what otherwise is a pretty scary minefield that makes you afraid to move. And that's how we get stuck. So in my personal life, um, I'm like all of us guys, I'm a work in progress, and I'm constantly trying to better my position in life. Presently, Man Up Life Coaching is approaching a decade of coaching. Yeah, coaching men between the ages of 20 something and presently 60 something. Um, my deal is that I use what I patently call the bro coach approach. That's literally a trademark, bro coach. And I believe in this each one teach one dynamic where men learn from men. I was lucky enough to turn my skill set into something more formalistic, which is how there is this dynamic, this coaching relationship. In fact, as you know, I'm sort of tearing down the wall here and saying this is essentially the conversation that you and I are in once a week, isn't it? I mean, the only difference is I'm not branded. Ding! But so there we are. That's our usual, right? But let's bring him back. Come on back. There he is. This is my thing. And what I'm helping you do is your thing. Your plan is having come through your own shit pipe, crawling through your own Shawshank shit pipe.
Yeah.
Your deal is you hired a coach because somewhere along the way, like, hey, I can't do this by myself, man. I've come too far to turn back, and I'm really having trouble, motivating myself to move this way. I need guidance. I need help. And what I'm imagining is going to happen is as you and I continue to work together, as happens with lots of my clients, you'll build it. Just like I built it. I sat at the table. I drew a whole page full of these things. Celia, my partner, chose this one. I turned it into a vector drawing, and I immediately started creating Man Up Life Coaching. You're going to do the same thing. So what I think what could be cool about this video is right now, I don't have a ton of YouTube people or whatever. But in the future, a lot of eyes are on me. I see that. And you, my friend, are the golden child. You are the golden boy. You, with the face like that, you're a handsome guy. You're in the prime of your life. You're only 29. You're very smart. Frankly, you come from an affluent environment. And, I got friends in low places, and you got friends in some lofty, interesting places. And so I'd love for your people's eyes to be on what I do for a living, and I'd love for my people's eyes to be on what you're building. And I think that this could be a historic little moment.
Hell yeah, man. And I'm excited. And it's it's interesting. When I found you, it wasn't like I was all alone. I had been trying. I had worked with several therapists over the years, and I've come to realize during our sessions together, while in therapy, I thought that I was making progress, but it wasn't necessarily measurable. It was kind of short lived, and a lot of those talk sessions were spent ruminating. And with you, I'm learning to like validate myself for the first time in my life. And you mentioned that I come from a great background, but for whatever freaking reason, I still deal, with so much self attack, expectations, whatever, and it's plagued me throughout my life. And um, it was hard for me to swallow the pill that like, how could I come from a place of like so much love and support and still have all these demons, get suicidal, etc. And you know, because a lot in part because of our relationship, I'm finally at a place of like inner peace and confidence where I'm like, okay, I want to use my personal experience to help prevent guys that believe that they're stagnant, being held back, being stuck, like truly stuck, and believe that depression is like a major factor in keeping them there. I want to help them build their tool belt, build their suit of armor to overcome that in ways they never thought possible, in ways that therapy isn't teaching the average guy. And I've just learned so much from you, man, and just I'm just grateful to be talking with you right now, and yeah, can't communicate that enough.
I really appreciate that, man. And I mean, I want to make it clear. I invited you on here. I literally just called you up tonight and said, "Hey, want to do a thing?" I mean, just like keep it transparent. Like this wasn't
Anytime.
planned. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, if you're watching this, it should, I think it's a good little bit of information that I literally finished my day of coaching, put my kid to bed, knew you're awake because I'm in San Diego. You're in San Diego, right?
Yes, sir.
You're in San Diego. I'm gonna kill this cat. I have a cat who's like really, bro, now. Um, but anyway, we have two rescues. They were both feral, and there are no rodent problems up here on top of the canyon with them on the job. So good boy. Just shut up. Daddy's doing
Well,
a video. But no, I did. I reached out to you and I said, "Hey, what you wearing? Are you wearing black? Oh, me too. Okay, you want to do a YouTube live?" And you're like,
yeah,
"Yeah."
well,
And here we are, right? So
mhm.
no script, totally making the shit up as we go along. And I'm introducing the frickin' frack car talk survive here because my deal is bro coach approach, and I don't want some dude watching this thinking that this is some corporate thing. Um, this wasn't designed as some sort of clever spruik where I talk about
Marketing collab.
yeah,
No.
where I talk about
Yeah.
man up life coaching and you
Uh-huh.
say, yes, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And like this is a thing. You're basically going to do something in something. And my job in working with you is I'm trying to help you to have another iron in the fire, which is this thing that's been an interest for you all along. Like you're on Instagram, right? What's your Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram is my name, Ian Western, IAN Western, like a Western movie. And man, you hit the nail on the head. In our last session, I'll remember it. This is something I fucking love about Dennis. I hope I can swear on your channel.
Yeah,
Um,
bro, drop them. Let's
yeah,
go.
Dennis hits me with truth bombs, hard truths that I need to swallow, and he calls me out of my bullshit. And two things from our last session really stand out. One, he mentioned that he's trying to help me create something. I've had this idea of creating a men's depression, like new age men's depression solution coaching business forever. And ironically, my own shame, my own self hatred has prevented me from like truly following through on that. And one thing that Dennis said yesterday that I just recognize, and it's just good to hear, it stings a little bit, but it's the truth, is that I over intellectualize everything. And it's been preventing me from taking the right action to actually move the needle forward and get something going, get a client base, get a brand, etc. And in regards to, I'm still in the process of forming what it is I want to create. All I want to do is help prevent pain that I've experienced in other men. And Dennis described my efforts because I'm all over the place. I just want to learn everything and I want to build my credibility. And he described me as a fire hose whipping in every single direction. And it's Dennis's job as my coach to pull me in, choke the nozzle and point it in the right direction so that all that attention and energy is going where it needs to go to have the most impact. And I was like, shit, that's what you do, bro.
It's so funny because like when you're really flowing as a coach, you don't know where the words are coming from. I mean, I'm not trying to compare myself to Jesus on the Mount or anything, but I'm just saying, I'm not Pat Buchanan, ha la 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 la, speaking in tongues or whatever. But Sita Matoya Matanga.
Did I mention he's a
But
goofy motherfucker?
yeah, oh yeah, you gotta come on, man.
Yeah.
I gotta talk to you mofos all day long. If I can't make my job fun, then what kind of I'm a barber with a bad haircut. Because I'm telling you guys, A, do something you love. B, make money doing it, and C, live happily ever after. And you say, but what about all the bad stuff? I say, you don't need that. But it's always been a part of my life. Okay, that's cool. There are slaves that got freed. Well, slavery has always been a part of my life. Yeah, I get it, but you're free. Like, bye, go be free. But see, the problem is you're institutionalized, right? So you don't know how to be free, right? The Shawshank Redemption is actually a really good a metaphor for a couple of reasons. I mean, myself, not bragging, but I've been to jail, so I mean, I know it seems pretty cool. But yeah, I've done some bad things and I've ended up in jail and there was alcohol involved. Blah, 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 blah. But anyway, the point is, if you spend any time in an environment like that, you can become institutionalized. And the metaphor I often use with people is that you're in a jail cell and the door's open, but you won't leave. Right? And I mean, you and I both know you're referring to what was pretty much an epic session yesterday.
Yeah.
But without even making it about that, because then people are like, well, what? You guys have an inside thing. Like, get a room. Like, or tell us what the hell happened. In a nutshell, sometimes guys need to get a real rough lesson. And the rough lesson is it's not about your ego. And when you can get your ego out of the way, what's really happening is you're fathering your inner child. You don't abuse the ego because that's ironic. If you want peace, peace can never be a product of anger, hostility, or abuse. So your job isn't to beat up your ego. Your problem is to control your ego. That's what self-mastery is. And the Shawshank Redemption, or just the idea of getting out of an institution, is I mean, even these guys who go back to, being civilians after, I've worked with, guys who have done 8 Iraqi tours and really had some weird situations that made it hard to just come back to normal. I'm 50. I mean, I dealt with, whacked out Vietnam vets. The idea is, whatever your personal narrative is, that justifies your attachment to attack, there's a moment at which you have to make a present choice to dare to let go of that as your identity. And when you try to do that out of fear, your ego will buck.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Oh, you know better than everybody. I've been a stubborn son of a bitch.
We all have. Takes one to know one. The only reason I can coach you is because I've done all the crap you're trying to do. I've already done it.
You're the real deal, Dennis.
Thank you, bro.
Dennis has been trying to kill my ego, this identity that I have of myself.
Tame it, not kill it.
Tame it, kill it, right? Because it'll be part of you forever. I believe. Is that correct? Maybe until we die and transcend or whatever.
I mean, we're in the process of controlling the ego is a good start. When the ego controls you, you've got this rabid monkey driving the car. So you just just take
Yeah.
control of the wheel. Let's
Monkey
keep it
mind.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Just
And
sit in the back seat, give him a Tetris or a Game Boy, and play Tetris. Whatever, that's updating myself. Nintendo 3DS, but but anyway, tell your little monkey mind. That's what meditation is. Here's a sketch pad. Here's paper and pen. Here, make nice pictures, and Daddy's going to drive the car. And if the little monkey gets out of line, you don't go, yeah, back of the hand, you little motherfucker. You don't do that. You just redirect him. Hey man, redirect him. Hey man, redirect him. Hey man. And when you point love in the direction of something that is so scared and chaotic and attacky, that is how you high hand that situation. And yeah, you're going to get, you're going to, but your real man strength is thickening your skin a little bit and saying, I don't have to react to this the way I have historically reacted. Like everything is a goddamn crisis.
yeah.
Come
And
on.
I think that's the beauty of your programming. Is I've been impulsive, reactive, self-sabotaging for as long as I can remember. And I've been in therapy for just as long, but it wasn't until I started working with you that I realized in order to improve those aspects of myself, I need to really deliberately reprogram my mind, reprogram my narrative, to validate myself from within, to, like, as you said, give the ego a Game Boy and let daddy, I would equate that personally, like my captain, my king, my highest version of myself,
Yes, sir.
focus, not react emotionally and impulsively, not, be consumed by useless, meaningless thoughts of fear, rumination, worst case scenarios, etc.
Catastrophizing, calamitizing,
Exactly. And
Chicken Little syndrome. We're all gonna die.
but for whatever reason, however I was brought up, even in spite of my loving family, I've noticed how much of a default that's where my mind goes. Like, oh shit, I got to do this, otherwise this is going to happen. If I don't do that, then that will happen.
That will happen. They will judge me.
Sure.
Because I do not understand that their love is unconditional. I believe that their love is there on the condition that I am successful by their standards. That's where being a rich kid doesn't look so interesting to me, because I don't want your golden handcuffs. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting that when you come from poor, you feel so despicable and judged by people who have means. But as an art teacher, what I learned is that a lot of those rich white boys had a whole lot of depression. And I couldn't understand, well, what are you depressed about? Fuck, you got lights and heat. You've never eaten a block of government cheese in your life. What are you depressed about? Well, what I found out was there can be a major identity crisis for people living in a bubble that was designed to shelter and protect them. And the disconnect between being inside that world and, quote, out here can be suffocating. And being allowed to get outside of that bubble, be yourself, love yourself, for yourself, as yourself, and draw a boundary with your parents, draw a line in the sand with your family, with your with your people and their people, because let's face it, right, we're talking about a community, and it's a community that it's aware of itself and its standards, and it's constantly policing, making sure that freaking homeowners association on steroids is what it is, right?
But before we take this any further, in case my parents watch this, they are at zero fault.
Of course they are.
They are fucking sinners.
Of
To the
course they are. Of
and
course they are. That's the whole point.
giving and caring and
Yes.
nurturing
Yeah.
people in the world.
Yeah.
And they raised me, I'm proud of this. I haven't really thought about this, but they raised me to try and pass on love. And I do try and pass on love as much as I can. And I think a lot of the love that they gave me and continue to give me channels out into the world in different ways, and also is manifested in this desire to help guys overcome suicidal thoughts on the reg, overcome prolonged periods of depression. I think, I owe everything to them. That said,
and wait. Let's just take that. Nowhere in my diatribe did I suggest that anybody was doing anything wrong.
No, I just wanted them to hear that.
Yeah. No. I get it. That's my disclaimer. But parents do the best we can with what we have. I have seen well-intentioned parents make mistakes in every tax bracket. So parenting is a full-time job and it never stops. That said, there is a phenomenon here. One of the truths, and the original truth that I was discussing, is when you come from absolutely nothing, you have nothing to lose. And that's very liberating. I think that if you were someone who came from absolutely nothing and had no one to be beholden to, if you were lucky enough to have had abusive parents that you didn't feel any obligation to, right? Like staying away from them is actually a good, healthy idea. If you had no gifts whatsoever, no support whatsoever, you literally had to hustle like an animal just to get into school and stay there, to have clothes, to have food, to get good grades, to get into college, for God's sake. You'd have, for all the mistakes I promised you'd make along the way, you'd at least be able to say, I've come to terms with the fact that I don't have anybody to call my family, but I also don't owe anybody anything. And that can be incredibly liberating. So while I'm not suggesting that your parents have done anything wrong by loving you and providing for you, what I am suggesting is there can be a tremendous amount of guilt associated with receiving such blessings and not living up to what one would just assume is the expected ROI on that.
They would agree with that.
Speak to that.
They call me out on that all the time. They continue to give me support, and for years I'm like, no, like I try and say like, hey, I don't want it. I don't need it. I want to become my own person. Like I can't keep accepting this. Like it's you're too generous. Like I want to do this. I want to be my own person. We were talking about identity, but yeah, I want to build my own identity. But yeah, I think the guilt and the shame associated with not, I guess, making them proud in the way that I would want to, especially at this phase of my life, is manifest in self-attack, manifest in self-sabotage. And, I'm learning more and more about it as time goes on. And now that I have an awareness of it, I don't want to use it as an excuse anymore. I want to move forward, and what we're doing together via our programming, via our sessions, I believe is moving me forward. So
I'm glad to hear that. So I think I wanted to take us down that road because I wanted to make it clear that even with the best parents, you could be a good looking kid, you could be in good shape, which is true. Both those things are true about you. You can have male privilege, you can have white privilege. I mean, aren't you blue-eyed and blonde-haired, for God's sake? Right. I mean, like, right? You can come from a comfortable background, But you can also experience depression and anxiety and pain equal to a guy sitting here telling you, like, I got fucking molested at, multiple times as a kid by strangers because I didn't have a parent there to protect me. Somebody from down here is under the impression that somebody in your habit trail is free of that, doesn't have the right to claim to be as depressed or as sad.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they don't have the right. I think they just have a different challenge. That they'll have their own unique set of challenges.
No, you're right.
Uh,
But absolutely. It, way back in my 20s, when I was working as um, an art teacher in a private school with, let's just, yeah, with
types.
your people, right? Not one Dwayne or Jamal came through that class, you know what I'm saying? But so I had this one kid in particular who had the nicest parents in the world. They were both doing well. The kid had all of the toys. He was a really good kid. And yet, when he came to my art classes, that more than ever is when he felt validated in some kind of way. Now, what I realize now that I didn't understand then is that my open studio art classes were glorified group coaching sessions.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, and I would go around, since each person got to work on his or her own projects using the materials that were available to us for 3 hours, and I'd put cool music on, and I'd sort of facilitate room conversation. But if you wanted to check out and just do your thing, you could do that too. It was an open studio class, and kids would come there after school, 3:30 to 5:30, something like that. And these kids loved it, and so it went from one class to two classes to three classes. Like, it turned into a whole culture. And I was bringing that thing, and I was bringing, soul. I was this, Promethean, white guy bringing the fires of South Philly, to this, to people whose only black artist they'd ever heard was Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? I was bringing this culture and this energy and this realness, and it was like a breath of fresh air. And in that space, they could really just be themselves and say whatever they wanted. And it was just like, for a couple of these kids, it was really the beginning of self-awareness and having an identity separate from this environment that they were in. It was just something else. The circus came to town, and I remember this one kid at a certain point became really suicidal, and in fact, he did attempt suicide. And so the parent called me up and said, hey, Dennis, I know this is a weird flex, but would you be interested in spending a weekend with our family down in Boston? Because our favorite guy went off the deep end, tried to kill himself, is super depressed, and is heavily medicated right now, and is in an institution, and they have some pretty strict rules, and the only other person that he's interested in talking to other than us apparently is you. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, and back at that time in my 20s, I'm like, I felt uncomfortable riding in a car with these white people, especially it was a Volkswagen. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, it was all new car smell and everything, with the little flower, the flower in the vase and everything, and like cool red and blue lights. And I was like, I felt like I was in a spaceship. And in fact, fun fact, that was the kid who taught me how to play Go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned how to play Go on the drive down. His dad because his dad would play with his son. And
Amazing.
that was one of the ways that they would interact with each other. So the dad said, I know you and this guy play a lot of chess together. He'd love it if you played some Go with him. Here, I'll teach you real quick.
Real quick. Yeah.
So I'm sharing this anecdote because a bit long-winded, but I'm sharing it because it's a real story about a real guy who went through a real thing that came from complete privilege. Like your parents love you, his parents loved him. Loved. Will always love him. They're good people. Did they have their shit? Every family does. Did they have a perfect marriage? No. But there was nothing bad per se. There was nothing weirdly dysfunctional, just some stuff. And but it was enough to make this kid want to depressed and suicidal. I worked with him, got him out of there, started playing Go with him all the time, got pissed off at him, and half the time wanted to throw the pieces at him because there's a steep learning curve. But eventually learned how to play, and as he taught me how to play Go, we had these conversations. And in my honest to God, like true story, I think that was the birth of Man Up Life Coaching.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's nobody knows it. Like I'm literally documenting it right now.
It's huge, bro.
I've never talked about it because it's real close to heart, but that's really the true story. That's where it started. So you're this 29-year-old guy, which means you're the age that I was when I was teaching. I was exactly your age. So what I'm interested in is you have something I didn't have, which is you don't have a record. I had done some bad things. I went through alcoholism. I was violent. I made a mess for myself that
Well,
needed
let
to
me
be
just say,
cleaned
like,
up.
my parents have done well so that I don't have a record, and probably without their support, I would have a record.
I
Um,
mean, by the way, I'm not a felon. I just want to put that out there. I have never been convicted of any crimes. That said, there were some skeletons in my closet. Also, I didn't have the means. Also, I had some emotional stuff I needed to work through. Relationships were crazy at that time. Didn't have that piece worked out. What I'm asking you is this. Since I've known you, you've wanted to be a depression coach. That's what you've said since day one. Convince me that not that you want to do this, but tell me your painful story without fear that, oh, well, it's not going to be like Dennis's because Dennis had a harder life or whatever. No, I mean, in fairness, do your story justice and tell me, make me feel for you, make me grab a box of tissues on this one. What is your potential client going to say? He's telling my story. What is that story?
well, starting from the beginning, I was thinking a little bit about this prior to this call. Started super young, like even in middle school. I remember just like skateboarding in my basement, and I was just trying to land a trick, and I couldn't land a trick. It's so stupid and simple. But I've been trying so much, and just coming up in middle school and whatever, I just always felt inferior to guys, girls, whatever. And I couldn't land this trick, and it just broke me down. I was like, I'm not good at anything.
Hmm.
And I went upstairs. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm not good at anything. Like
Hmm.
everyone else has something that they're good at. And it was then and there. I was like, well, let's think, like, what is it? And we decided on tennis. My dad's an awesome tennis player. And I got to get pretty good at tennis until I was competing at the highest level. And it came to light that under pressure, whenever I would miss a shot, I would break down. I would attack myself. You fucking idiot. You practice so goddamn hard. How are you missing all of this stuff? And that would carry over into a lot of areas of my life. I wasn't the athlete that I wanted to be. I when I was going through puberty, I wasn't get the girls that I wanted to be. You know, I would have some successes, yes, but and I always felt inferior. And I remember going to the first therapist, and mom and dad are just like, things just aren't quite working out. And I think that belief like stuck, like really grabbed a hold on a young age. And came up, lived in a beautiful Jersey suburban town, pretty bubble. By the time alcohol and drugs came around, I was like, fuck yeah, give me some of that shit. I'm dying for excitement. I'm oh, this, you get drunk and the girls will kiss you? Absolutely. Like 100%. Like, and that eventually evolved into, you know, me. I worked hard in high school and got into a good college, but my goal, I just wanted to be in a fraternity. I was like, that's how I'll get laid. That's how I'll prove myself as a man, and have companionship. And because, you know, I remember my first girlfriend. It was just like, this is amazing. This is like the only time that I felt like truly happy. And you know, rushed to fraternity, got hazed out the ass.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Um, hazed other kids, which I'm really like ashamed of, and like, how could I do that after all my parents, you know, raised me to? But in my mind at the time, it was justified. I was like, hey, let's fucking do this. Is what you do.
Mm.
And you know, again, just kind of those short periods of happiness, and long, prolonged, just cloudy brain fog, self-hating, always tired, unable to focus, always trying to drink or smoke myself out of the voice that's attacking, saying, you're a piece of shit, you don't measure up, you're not good enough. Um, until, you know, it manifested in a very similar way to a story you were just describing
Mm.
with your art student. I found myself, you know, with a knife to my wrist, and I called, I like texted my, I was like black. I was so drunk, but you know, that part of me was still there. And it wasn't the first time that I'd held a knife to my wrist. And I texted my sisters like goodbye. And next thing I know, like police are at my door, and they're taking me to a psychiatry ward. And I woke up and I wasn't allowed to leave for 4 days. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
you know, that was my institution experience. And
mm-hmm.
I was like, holy fuck, how did I get in here? I don't belong here. Like, I'm not a crazy person. And you'd have like,
That was me in jail. What am I in here with all these criminals
yeah.
for?
Um, and yeah, I was like, man, my friends haven't. I'm living in a dorm. People notice when you're gone in a close quarters dorm. I'm like, what are my friends gonna think? Like, eventually, I had to drop out, or not drop out, but withdraw that semester.
Yeah.
And you know, by the grace of God, like, went to work with dad and his business. Went to therapy twice a week, and my therapist was a good man, and helped, you know, did his best to try and help me just kind of shift my belief system. And I remember, it's interesting, I'm thinking back on it. He was the person that said so much of psychology was focused on mental illness versus
Yes.
happiness. He gave me a book called Flourish, which was about positive psychology. And it was like a new emerging field. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, shouldn't everything be about happiness and achieving happiness versus just preventing or treating symptoms of mental illness? Or so that happened. I eventually went back to school, made a shit ton of other bad decisions. Um, but you know, I was able to get through because I had support of my family, and I'd find a girlfriend and just like really, really lean into that. And I was just completely under the belief, oh, I'll go to college, I'll get a good job, and the rest will take care of itself. Like,
Mm.
um, you know, I went after my dreams pretty hard. I was obsessed with action sports and surfing, and I worked for Red Bull one time. That was like my dream internship, but I was young, and they didn't rehire me. And so I was like, well, I'm a fucking failure. I'm a piece of shit. So I kind of resigned to other lines of work that I knew, like, in my heart, like, this is not what I want to be doing. But, you know, I should act as if I don't have the support of this amazing family, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
strive
mm-hmm.
to become financially stable. And even though that was the goal, I fucking hated it so much, and I was so depressed and so stagnant that I ended up quitting multiple jobs. You know, I would do well initially. I'd get tired of the routine. My routine would become like oversleeping, like just working out. Working out is like the one thing I've been able to do that I'm throughout my life, because it's like the one objectively healthy thing that gives my mind and some relief and release. And
And it's funny about working out too, because you know, working out without the end game that you're training for a sport, for me, is kind of like doing a kinesthetic meditation, making dots on a page or spirals or circles, or doodling, let's say, versus practicing to do some museum quality artwork. Like, it's funny how when you working out without, the reason I'm mentioning it is because I can't stop thinking about you saying that, how angry you were when you couldn't stick the trick, and then you said, "I'm not good at anything." Dad got you into tennis. You started playing competitively, but that when you would lose, when you would have failures, you would be so self-judging and so criticizing and so angry. And it reminded me in Novak Djokovic, who, when he had his famous battle with Federer, where there's no way he should have come back from that slump, and he went into the locker room and he said he kept screaming at himself in the mirror, "Believe in yourself, believe in yourself, believe in yourself." Wow, I just got emotional just thinking about that, because I like I get that thing, and he screamed at himself to believe in himself, and he freaking did it, man. It came back from as you know, a ridiculous deficit, and earned that title. And what he was doing in that situation is he was doing what we ultimately need to do. Was he was coaching himself in that locker room. When you have a good coach coaches you until you can coach yourself. That's the game that we play, right? It's sort of a teach a man to fish thing. So in the case where you were experiencing all of this anger and hostility and judgment, and the therapist was working with you, what the therapist wasn't able to successfully teach you to do was to father your own inner child with love, and was to believe in yourself. I think that's the quintessential difference, because let's face it, we're here talking about how coaching for anxiety and depression might have an advantage over therapy for some guys. And you said in the beginning, holistic methods were very helpful for you. Holistic methods, because breathing is a good way to take that freaking, that John McEnroe freaking tennis racket breaking anger down a notch. Male groups are a great idea because it's a reminder you're not the only one who goes through this. Just brush your shoulders off, bite down on your mouthpiece, and grind. It's just another day at the office, right? Accountability. This environment is great for accountability because we're coaching each other up rather than saying, "Well, we'll see how you've done next week." Right?
yeah, yeah, it's funny. Like you're like when you were saying the therapist, I think we processed and reframed a lot of feelings and beliefs, but I don't ever really think that those beliefs stuck. I don't think that I internalized them, that I was like, okay, yes, I believe in myself. I'm confident. There might have been a few sessions where I walked away like, okay, I'm going to do better. But he didn't teach me to man up. Like as funny and cliche as it sounds in this context, but like
He also didn't teach you to validate literally every
no,
second. I mean,
uh,
I'm sitting here with a freaking lap counter
yeah,
because when I throw 65 pounds on my back and go for a ruck, I bring this thing and I say validations because, you know, if it's 5 miles
exactly.
of me walking with the weight on my back, that's 5 miles of me being able to brainwash myself with positive messaging. And
Yes,
as you're discovering, you're rediscovering something that advertisers already know. The message that gets beat into somebody's head the most is the message that will manifest as their reality.
right.
Huh?
I wasn't deliberately like programming my mind in the way that me as someone who's prone to depression and self-attack like needs to in order to develop a more authentic and lasting inner confidence, inner peace, and resilience to life's challenges, man. I can't tell you like how many times I was like, oh, I actually heard this today. You like to say like depression is rage inwards. I heard another phrase that I also agree with is like depression is like realizing futility. And instead of accepting it, you're resisting it. You're
Oh, absolutely.
resisting futility. And that resistance to futility, to the hopelessness, is so draining and so distracting. I think it kept me down like in a fog for years. I really think that. And so, you mentioned the new age alternative healing methodologies, just the breath, like getting present to the moment. Something I'll continue to learn for the rest of my life. I think everybody will. Like, but also, taking it a step further into woo woo, like the breath work, flooding your brain with oxygen and opening up kind of your truer self to program it with validations, with a vision of a positive future, like a vision that maybe, your narrative that things are hopeless and you'll never change isn't right. Maybe that you
It's
can,
just not necessary. It doesn't have anything
yeah,
to do with right or wrong. It's just a choice. You don't have to wear that dirty brown coat every day.
right.
You can make a different choice. They got a whole wardrobe full of clothes over there you could wear.
Mm-hmm.
But that, not me. Well, it hasn't been you, but you could try something else.
Yeah.
But trying something else requires um, confidence, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean,
Because you're taking
or
a risk, aren't you? To try
it
something
could.
else?
I feel like I try everything, and that's part of my problem.
Oh, I
Honestly,
see what you're saying. I see what you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Um, shiny object syndrome, as you like to say.
Yeah. Straight up.
Uh, but I, when I was stuck, it was just like, even though I was trying so many things, I was like, oh, they won't work. I had like in my mind, I realized now that I had a predetermined, oh, because I am the way that I am, because I am less, because I am inferior, because I'm a piece of shit.
Look,
So,
and all you're doing is just nailing in the freaking the
yeah,
nails into the coffin lid.
yeah.
Like you're just.
And working with you is the first time anyone's like, all right, like instead of whatever the fuck you're thinking, think this. The validations. Like
Yes.
and you have and you drill it every single coaching session. I have
Yes.
a counter app on my phone for when I'm going on a walk or waiting for whatever at a store.
Prayer beads, whatever it takes. Yeah, man.
I'm just setting reminders. And now instead of ruminating, like, and it could even be like positive or neutral, I am noticing myself going to that. That is slowly starting to become more of my default. And I think it's helpful because your thoughts become things. Law
Yes,
of
they
attraction.
do.
Uh,
Yes, they
mm,
do. Yes, they do. It's funny. I saw this. You and I are just flowing. I saw somebody shared with me. Faisal actually shared with me Coach Faisal Amin Sheikh, who happens to be on the Man Up Life Coaching website and who is a coach par excellence who came through the process came in just like you and came out the other side and is now coaching with me. He shared with me. I've always liked Bill Burr. I've always thought he was a great guy, and the comedian. And
Yeah, masshole.
yeah, yeah. Oh, he's a masshole, all right. And yeah, he came through. He's a guy, right? Um, and he was doing this gig where he was riding with Danica Patrick in a race car, and she's driving. And he's going, "Whoa!" I mean, okay, I knew this was going to be very fun and everything, but I mean, I know it was a race car, but wow. And I just got asked, do you never worry about, like, with this little wheel and this really fast car, like crashing and burning? And she was just like, real ice, like nerves of steel. She's like, yeah, well, that's not the sort of thing we say. What do they say? Thoughts become things. And as a person who rides a motorcycle and who's almost gone off canyons, target fixation is the thing. They say that when you're riding a motorcycle, where you look is where you go. And I'm here to tell you, as somebody who rides a lot, that's a thing. So target fixation happens in here with us a lot of time. They say if you look for a snake in the grass for long enough, you'll find one, right? So words do become things. Where you look is where you'll go. The game that we play is learning to have a constant stream of incredible input for long enough that we can recognize that the world around us is beginning to manifest it as output. And the idea that there's a causal relationship between your input and the world's output starts to freak people out, and you get into this whole law of attraction conversation, which, by the way, sounds like a topic for our next one of these. I'm looking at the sands of time, and I'm realizing that we did what I expected us to do, which is went for a good solid hour. So I'm going to let you close this out and tell me, if you have a friend that literally is interested in watching this for the good solid hour that we've taken, as a way of self-promoting, what is it? What statement do you want to make? Like, hey, watch my next trick. What statement is it that you want to make about what you're going to be doing professionally in the next 5 to 10 years with regard to men's depression and anxiety coaching?
Right. And I've thought about this and said this before in some other contexts, but it's honestly just like the most powerful thing and real thing I have. So
Okay.
here goes. Like, I'm someone who months went by where I would just have nonstop voices in my head commanding me to kill myself. Like, nonstop. Paired with visions of me killing myself, driving my car off a bridge, shooting myself in the head, cutting my wrist, fucking jumping off a cliff, you name it. Like, vivid visions. I call it now a spirit of heaviness, just a feeling of fatigue and low energy, inescapable, that's characterized, I would describe it as like sinking, but it's paired with, all of these self-attack thoughts. Just, that's what I've come through, and it's been prolonged, and I've gotten out of it and gone back into it, and gotten out of it and gotten back into it, and stayed into it, and searched all over. I've had to claw my way through this shit pipe to finally get to a place of inner peace and confidence and love for life, love for the universe, that what I want to do is prevent people that are predisposed to feeling that pain. I want to help them. I want to prevent them from going through it. I want to prevent them from getting stuck in the same places that I got stuck. I want to teach them everything that I've learned that they might not have gotten in traditional therapy. I want to be there for them in ways that no one else has been there, as far as texting them, hey, how was today? Did you work out? Did you eat healthy? Did you call this person? Did you get to that meeting on time?
So you want to be a Jewish mother?
Basically, but uh, but in the spirit of lifting them up
I get it.
to reclaim their masculine power and live a life of joy and prosperity.
Mm.
And in so doing, my motive is selfish. By helping others heal, I'm going to help heal myself.
That's
Uh,
actually not selfish. It's actually how healing works. It's algebraic, and it happens on both sides of the equal sign, or it doesn't happen at all. And the equal side reminds us that all men are brothers, and it's an each one teach one environment, which
oh yeah,
interestingly is how we started the chat.
yeah. And I have 3 younger sisters, so I'm always looking for more brothers. and and I have gone through life always deliberating, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What job am I supposed to have? And this is the one recurring theme that I keep getting encouragement on, that I keep getting.
It feels right. You've got the calling. That's what it is.
It's
That's
what I'm being called to do.
that's I sat at a table and made this logo because I understood that this was my calling, and there was nothing that could stand in my way, and here I am. Just like Novak Djokovic, who jumped around as a little kid in his pajamas on his bed, pretending to swing a tennis racket, winning the US
Yeah.
Open. That's a true story, and he manifested. So here, I'm going to play us off stage. Any you information that you want to drop, now's where you probably want to pitch.
Nothing. Just thank you, Dennis, for everything. Thank you inviting me on tonight. If anyone's interested in connecting with me, Instagram is the best way. At IAN Western, Ian Western. I gotta give props to my man here. I've been a stubborn son of a bitch throughout his program, saying I don't know if this is for me, over intellectualizing everything, and he hasn't given up on me. He's continually over delivering, making our sessions go long, over time, and giving me insights and truths that I should have gotten years ago. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. And I'm going to do a Tebow and point to whatever's up there that people point to when they do that thing. But I know it isn't me doing it. I'm channeling something. So speaking of channels, this is going to end up on my YouTube channel. There are going to be 2 videos. There's going to be the raw one, which is this hour and change live video. And then Faisal is going to watch the video, do what he does, which is find great edit points, distill it down to about 30 minutes, give it to Matt Bamondi over there at Bizarre Productions, who's going to chop it and screw it into something clean and neat. And then you're welcome to point your people to it. So my suggestion to you as we close out is this is going to be live now. I'll send you a link. If you have people and you're interested in having them watch it as a way of self-promoting, you're welcome to do that. And when I have an edited version, the TLDW, I'll make sure I send that along as well.
Thanks, my brother. Yeah, definitely. We'll send my inner circle here, and I'm sure they'll watch the whole thing. I know my family will want to watch the whole thing. So
wonderful. Well, then in that case, sorry I threw you under the bus.
Yeah, I was like, no, time out. I gotta defend them. They're gonna watch this, but they're open-minded and loving enough that they can take it, and we call each other out on it all the time. So
well, at the end of the day, you're Jersey. So, all right. On that note, stick around. I'm going to talk to you, but I'm going to deuce out on the live stream. Bye.